Okay, so how I'm gonna do this one is I'm not. I'm gonna try to avoid just talking like about through the plot episode by episode. What I'm gonna do is first immediately I'm going to establish the kind of key points of what happens in each episode real quick, and then I will try to essentially go into each topic as it is overarching throughout the thing, and just like try my best not to miss anything. So that's how I'm gonna do this. So to just real quick lay out what happens in each episode, because this is the spoilers, you should have already watched it. So with episode one, we get introduced to Noriko and her dad. Uh, Her dad was the ship captain of the Luxian. She's at a school to train to learn how to use the mechs, which are their primary means of fighting against this like currently unknown alien force. In episode one, they do not go at all into what the alien force they're fighting is, pretty much. She, it's again, her father is again well known as the captain of this thing. She and her and the like upperclassmen she looks up to the most, uh, Kazumi, with the blue hair girl, are the ones who get selected for as the two representatives of this school, I believe, to go into space to join the fighting force, to join the like outer space fighting force. It At this point she is not very competent in her machine, and she's only been training for a month. She is very much so less competent than like a lot of the other students. So it's believed that she was chosen for nepotism. She was chosen by the coach. They're like a dude who's primarily called Coach, who was the last survivor of the incident of the Lexian where her dad got killed. So it's believed that it's like nepotism choice. She is getting bullied by. She is essentially getting bullied as a result of this. She was already getting kind of like talked badly about and mistreated, or just like very lightly bullied, and now it turns into more like a much more extreme direct bullying. Primarily done so by what's her name, Reiko Kashiwari, the girl with the Ojo situation and the the laugh and the hair. It gets to a point where the bully challenges her to a duel, and in that duel, she comes to realize essentially how to more competently control her machine, and wins the duel and essentially proves her merit to kind of like starts proving her merit of why she was chosen. This after the coach had already basically got her into it's not talent, it's hard work kind of speech. Episode 2. Noriko and Kasumi go into space. They're introduced to the concept of how different distance and scale can be are perceived in space. We are introduced to Jung Fruit, the redhead girl. She challenges Kasumi to a duel. At the end of their duel, they basically end up in like this huge kind of like it looks kind of like a laboratory, but there's the bottomless pit. But essentially, there's a big like enclosed thing with the corpse of one of the aliens inside, and it's like this gigantic like bug monster alien thing. And as a result, Noriko is like, "This is what the fuck we're fighting for. This is what killed my dad. What the fuck?" She doesn't say that, but you know, she doesn't say that, not with swears, but you know what I mean. Then we are get the second half of that episode is Uh, they discover the Luxian, not knowing it's the Luxian. They just have like a fast moving ship. They just know that there's some kind of fast moving ship, so they go to like send the two girls to investigate what it is, along with the coach. When they get close, then they look and see on the side and realize it says Luxian on the side. And Noriko like basically has a moment of panic and is like, because of the time dilation situation that I'll get into properly, like I'll try my best to properly explain later. Uh, Time is different out here, so it's only been a few dozen minutes since the attack on the ship happened out here. So she still believes that she can save her like dad. I mean, that's obviously not how it works, but that's obviously not how it works. But like trauma makes you do dumb things, is the situation. Well, while they were out there, when they return, 6 months have already passed for the people who stayed behind. So this is the first instance of that happening. All right. Episode 3. We are introduced to what's his name? The blonde boy, Torrin Smith is what it's saying. And that essentially becomes Noriko's kind of like first male friend and love interest, right? Um, Noriko and Kazumi are kind of having a bit of a falling out because essentially Kazumi's like, she is not fit for this yet. She is not competent enough to like handle the brutality of war. Is essentially the idea, like, and like she like it's very much a thing of she is. It's not that she has any like hatred of Noriko. It's more of just like she is like, this girl is going to get herself killed on the battlefield. This girl is going to get herself or both of us killed on the battlefield if she goes out there, and I don't want to see that. So that like she breaks off their partnership, and as a result, Noriko goes and partners with Smith. And then they get sent out on their first combat mission, and she, while stuck out in, like on space, freezes up and panics while getting attacked for the first time. She doesn't get hit at all, but then she tries to contact like her partner Smith, and he's dead. Yeah, and like there's no moment of him like on the intercom like screaming out he's dead. It's like, no, she just can't contact him, and then they get back into the ship, and like he's not there. She goes to check on the boy situation. All the boys are looking sad, and it like that's the moment where it's like, oh yeah, he died out there. Um, let's see. Am I forgetting anything else from episode 3? That's the one where my memory is kind of haziest. Yeah. Okay. Episode 4. Episode 4 is like, I'm trying to remember the exact details, but this is the point where you start to realize just how scary the like bug army alien force actually is. Essentially, like they were hammering it in this episode, uh, where they essentially end up in a situation to where like Noriko's still not combat ready, and she's kind of essentially having PTSD because like she is like, I got my partner killed, and they get forced into a situation to where like they have to send everybody out. Everybody has to go fight, and she's told to stay behind. And another girl, funnily enough, like a girl who, aside from this little bit, does not matter at all, and I cannot remember her face, named Linda. I was like some blonde woman. Do they even have a picture of her? Do they even have a picture of her? They might not even have a picture of her. There actually is a picture of her on MAO. That's funny. Linda Yamamoto. um, ends up taking her machine place. She gets killed. And like also, I'm gonna remember this because this is like probably one of the most brutal kills on a human character in the entire thing because it's a bug that looks like a combination of like five different bugs. But one of the things too is it has very spider like the way she gets killed is by being squeezed by like the mouth of a spider, which is fucked. Like or like I say a spider, but they're also kind of pincer like. They're like pincers, but texture wise they look like a spider, like spiders like mouth, which is fucked. Um, um, so yeah, there's you basically have a situation to where like oh these things mean business and they're killing people left and right. Everybody like a bunch of people are dying. Obviously, our main characters are not dying; they're fighting. But Noriko's inside, and Noriko basically has her moment where she hardens up and is like, "I'm not finna let my partner die again." Uh, Again, not what she says, but that's kind of what she does. She goes and hijacks the Gunbuster, which she saw either earlier in the episode or like I think the last episode. I think it was the last episode. Uh, she goes and hijacks the Gunbuster, which they weren't even supposed to know about, and is piloting herself. And the coach, like the like admiral dude, is like, "What the you doing?" And then the coach is like, "Let her do it. Let her do it. She looks confident. Let her do it." Um, this being the moment where she does the iconic pose with her arms crossed, and she's just like she's ready to go. This is the moment where she locks in, and um, I always thought of the big iconic fight that actually happens in episode 5 as if it happened in episode 4. No, the first fight with the Gunbuster, she is still kind of like she's not fully there yet. She kind of like just like goes ham. Uh, and she goes out and she essentially saves the day. She takes out the big things in the Gunbuster. She has her like moment. They have their like moment of uh like yeah, she saved the day. We get to episode 5. Everybody goes back to Earth. So this is the point where I think this is the point where Kimiko, her best friend, is reintroduced, and now 10 years have passed on Earth. So now Kimiko is 27, and she has a child. So that bit is introduced. Meanwhile, Noriko is still like 16, 17 because of the time dilation situation. So this is the point where it starts kind of hitting hard. Is like we haven't even been out there that long, and already all my friends are gone. Like not gone, but or like high school's over. High school is over. We're in the real world now. Situation. I believe this episode also they have their little two-person graduation. Yeah, the first half of the episode is kind of like going into like how things have changed on Earth and that situation and how they're kind of dealing with that and the like kind of depressing situation that comes with that. And then we get into the second half where they have to go back into space and fight. And this is the first time you see them properly like deploying with the Gunbuster, and you see it's actually two ships that combine into one big robot. So yeah, they go onto the thing, and Kasumi is like she can't fight properly because the coach stayed behind, and because of the time difference, by the time they get back, she believes they're going to be dead. All that. This is the episode which also goes into the drama of like her like feelings for the coach and all that jazz. Which is one element of the show that I don't really care for. It's just kind of like, and it's not even so much the fact that it's a teacher-student thing. It's just kind of not didn't it didn't do anything for me. There are bits where it feels a little melodramatic, if that makes any sense. So I'm not going to talk too much about that part of the plot. But so yeah, this is the bit where yeah, after they go out into space and after Noriko essentially now she's the like confident one who has to give a speech Kasumi to get her locked into the situation. And once they do that, then you get the basically iconic fight scene where they combine together and form the robot, and then they do the crazy uh, lightning kick in space down to land on the ship that they're supposed to be protecting, and then they do the arms cross thing with the robot, and then from that position they essentially are defending using all of these crazy weapons to defend the ship from the alien forces that are surrounding them. That scene is awesome. And this is also the scene where you get again the most iconic song from this thing. The most iconic song in the show, not being the opening song or ending credits, not being either the credit songs or even the like very end credit song, which is a different song. It's the song here, which I will put in the description. I freaking love that song. It's the first thing I think of when it comes to this show. That and this fight scene. But yeah, they win that fight. They get back. The coach is still alive. And then you get to episode 6. This episode is like, again, this is clearly another like interesting artistic decision because this whole episode is in black and white. In black and white and gray. So we get an interesting situation here where another 15 years have passed on Earth. What's her name? Kasumi, blue hair girl, stayed behind. She stayed behind. She got married to the coach before he died. So we're introduced to her like visiting the grave because it's been 15 years. The girl who used to be the bully, we saw earlier that she had become the coach in the last episode, that she had become like a teacher at the school, and now we see her as the principal of the school, and now Kasumi has become the coach, assumed the coach position, and is teaching. And then one of her students is basically, we see a scene a bit where a bunch of students run up on her, and one of those students is the daughter of who we find out is like now 18 and is about to graduate. Of what's her name? The best friend, Kimiko. Meanwhile, so we found out that one of the students is the daughter. Kasumi is getting ready to go back into space, basically to finish the war. And there's a bit where she kind of has a philosophical conversation with a random soldier as she's going up to prepare to go out. That kind of goes. I'll go into that conversation later. We see that they essentially prepared the nuke, and it looks like a nuke. But what it actually is the black hole bomb. It's called the Buster Machine number 3. The two ships that make up the Gunbuster are the Buster number 1, Buster number 2, and then the black hole bomb ship is the Buster number 3. I will talk about that thing later because Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Turns out Noriko, along with June, they are still like not even that much older. Apparently only 6 months have passed for them in these 15 years because they're out in space basically continuing the fight. They've essentially been continuing the war along with the like old gray-haired Admiral dude. And some others. So like it's pretty much a situation that like, okay, they've clearly been winning the war and this is the final like finish them off kind of situation. So Kasumi warps and like joins them with the black hole bomb. She boards the ship. That's when we get the situation where Kasumi tells Noriko about Kimiko, and how like by the time Noriko gets back, she might not even be alive anymore. She might have died of old age, And so Noriko cries about that. What's okay, so yeah, then they have the big they we have the big final fight. And it's funny too because the final fight is like essentially glossed over. It's essentially just a montage, the actual fighting. Uh, and they like literally they just do a montage and like honestly you can't even barely tell what's happening during said montage. And they just show a thing of like this many ships were destroyed, this many ships survived, etc., etc. Um, and then you get to kind of the closing situation to where like the actual fighting has stopped, the aliens are not attacking anymore, and so now they're just trying to essentially prepare the bomb and wait it out until and they'll just warp away before the bomb actually goes off so they don't get killed. Also, funnily enough, thing too, why the gunbuster itself like clearly survives can survive a damn black hole is crazy, but so it's a situation where the bomb doesn't go off normally. So the girls in the gunbuster decide we're gonna go down and we're going to activate it manually from the middle. I'm gonna talk about that damn bomb. And then Jung is like, "I'll come with y'all." And like as soon as she says that, like her thing starts getting like crushed, and she's like, "No, no, 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 no!" And they're like, "No, no, 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 no! You go back. This is not a suicide mission. We can survive this with Gunbuster. You will not. So we'll meet you. We'll see you." They're lying. They're lying because of the time situation. So we'll see you. You go back to Earth and we'll take care of things there, right? So they do their sad farewell. Um, Even just recapping this shit's taking me over 20 minutes. They do their sad farewell. Um, and then they go essentially and use one of the cores of their machine to reignite the bomb, set off the bomb. Everybody else warps away. Black hole bomb goes off. It's a big spectacle. And then you get the last scene, which is another iconic scene where they come back and I'm kind of trying to summarize here, but like I want to talk about this scene so much. Where they come back to Earth, and 12,000 years have passed. Even though, again, but hardly any time has passed for them at all. Like it might have been 12 hours or something. I don't remember if they said the exact time frame how long it took them to get back. But like 12,000 years have passed on Earth, and they don't see any lights on Earth, so they think that like even if Earth is still here, humanity might have died out by this point. And then all the lights start coming back on, and there's an arrangement of lights that's big enough to see from space that says "Welcome Home," and then like they leave the gunbuster in their escape pods, they leave it out in space, and you get your moment. You get your basically moment of. I get that sounds like this, but I'll get into the emotional weight of all this later. Again, just trying to summarize. And then they go back down, and then we roll credits as the gunbuster floats away. So summary done. Now let's actually go and get into the nitty gritty because there's so much to talk about with each of these elements. So let's try to keep it in order. Okay, let's start with the obvious one. Noriko, our main character. So her particular character journey is like fairly. It's not. I don't want to say it's basic. It's simple. It's not basic. It's simple. Her character journey basically being one from mostly just about confidence. She is capable of doing of doing everything that's asked of her. She just does not have the confidence to do so. Hence why she was picked in the first place. So yeah, you get your little journey. Like you even get like a bit of it where it's like she's starting to learn how to use the thing, and then she fights for the first time in war, and she gets PTSD because her partner died from the situation, and then she also has to essentially overcome that PTSD. And once she's able to do so, she's fully in it. In the last two episodes, she's like fully confident and she's ready to fight. Except now she has a new problem that she has to deal with is she is ready to fight. That part of her character arc is done, but now she essentially has to come to terms with the idea of I don't get to live a life with my friends or well, I don't get to live a life anymore with these people essentially because I fully dedicated myself to the mission. Like her best friend is growing old and will die before she ever sees her again, and she has to like accept that possibility, and that's fucked. Alongside that, like talking about like Kimiko real quick is again like there's not too much to her. Supportive best friend who wants to be helpful as much as they can, but she kind of gets left behind because she's not actually part of the thing. She doesn't actually join the thing, so she just ends up as a civilian. Where we rejoin her we rejoin her as an adult with a child, right? And then the next time you see her again, she's like middle, upper tiers of middle aged, and her actually, yeah, the next time you see her, you don't even see. I don't think you see Kimiko directly. I think you just see her child. Um, Wait, what was that last scene? Did she have like another child or a grandchild in that last scene? Where, because she was like old, she was like getting old at that point. Like she looked like she was like in her 60s or 70s, and there was another child, but they'd already established that her child was like over 18 at this point, and she was like holding a child. So I guess that had to be like a grandchild at that point. Uh, but yeah, just that idea, just to have a character that represents how the passage of time is fucked in this situation. To essentially throughout the course of this story, this woman like grows old, and then like probably by the time this is over is by the time the fighting was over, she's dead. Let alone the 12,000 years that pass before they get back home. Um, so like that sucks. Like I said, I don't have very much to say about Kumiko Amano. Unfortunately, her thing is very much focused on like the kind of like teacher student situation with the coach, and her infatuation with him, and her essentially being like romantic rivals with like Jung and the freaking bully girl and all that. And it's like, what, man? I'm not. Trust me, I am all for good romance stuff, and I just don't think this is one of them. I just think it's too basic. I am all for a good romance story, even if it is morally dubious. But this was not. This was not it. That part was my least favorite part of this whole story. Um, there is the part too of essentially her initially being the competent one, but then at the end it has to be Noriko who pulls her back into fulfilling her role as a soldier. I like that like dynamic, and how that dynamic kind of switched up, and when they were both able to be confident, then they finally worked together as a team. Like after all that time, I like that part. Joan is interesting because yeah, she's the other like competent rival, but she essentially in a way ends up being friendlier to Noriko. That she ends up being more of a friend to Noriko than kind of Amano does. Um, and that's explored a few different ways, like them sharing the birthday, her trying to like cheer up Noriko when like they come back from her confirming her dad died. Um, and just like other little interactions, like even the bit where she kind of has like a bit of a jealousy situation because of the other bit with the coach. Like even with that, you can kind of tell it's not like she's kind of conflicted about those feelings, like whether she like actually has any kind of anger towards uh Noriko, or like like it her from her perspective, like it's like she understands this could just be a misunderstanding, but even during that bit, there was still the part where like along with Amano, she was like, "Dog, this girl is going to get herself killed if she goes out into the fight. She is not ready." There's still that bit of her. So even then, it wasn't completely like just her being a bad person. Even in that bit, and then yeah, we get later on. I forgot about the scene where they're like at the beach talking, but like there's that too, and there's never mind. This girl always having her stuff out, always. Like at the beach, just no problem. Cool. Can you tell that there's more fan art for her than there are for the others? um, and then yeah, they don't ever. Okay, so then they don't ever have her on screen in the Gunbuster, but then you get to episode 6 and it's established that like she also co-piloted with Noriko while Kumiko was back on Earth. Is that she took over that position for that bit of time. So and they say it was like 6 months to them. So for those 6 months, like altogether, Noriko spent more time being the co-pilot of the Gunbuster with Jung than she did with Kumiko. Probably, unless I'm misremembering something and they never actually like used the Gunbuster or anything. No, because she handed off the key. Um, so there's a bit of like that ended up essentially being like kind of another best friend. And I think I say this already. How Jung kind of has a sort of but not really bisexual thing going on, where she's initially interested in the coach, and then as she gets closer to Noriko, she has one moment where she jokes to Kumiko that she was talking about the coach, but she essentially jokes that she's talking about like having a romantic interest in Noriko. And like honestly, I'm trying to remember if there were any things that made it obvious, but like it was not just it. Like that girl's bisexual. That girl, that she was like serious but hiding it. But this also being an 80s production, like it's unlikely they would have even ever like seriously gone through with something like that. So it is what it is. Which is funny too, because that also like Noriko never had any romantic essentially situation, and anyone she possibly could have had it with was dead. So like it was dead by the time she gets back to Earth. So that sucks. So I guess maybe she started a new life afterwards. Unfortunately, Diebuster does not answer that question and I'll talk about that later. I will talk about that when I talk about Diebuster. Well, yeah, no, like honestly, yeah, no. June has way more going on. Way more going on than Kumiko. Really, she's like a very interesting character in her own way. Yeah, obviously the little bit where she's like about to sacrifice herself because like her like she thinks her two best friends are about to kill themselves, for the mission, and they have to tell her like no, we'll be fine, but that it's still a thing where like it might as well be the case because to Jung she's never gonna see them again, which is very shitty. And she's essentially been left as the de facto closest thing to a hero they have left that actually returns home, aside from the Admiral and like those people, like the unnamed people that work for him. So like she's gonna be like lonely as hell, and like we don't really know any more about her thing. We're kind of it could just get the situation to where like I guess you could have the implication of like okay, she's essentially finna be the like leading celebrity figure to inspire people now that's left over because these original two, she's the one who has to essentially spread the message of their bravery and all that, that kind of situation. She has to go home and tell the story to the new generations. Is the implication. But yeah, no, it's the reverse because now she like lives a normal like the rest of her life. She has to live with like the fact that like her two best friends are dead for like not dead, but like she'll never see them again for like 60 plus years probably. So that sucks. There's all kinds of tragedy in yeah. Let me just get into that. Is there's all kinds of like tragedy in the ways that like the tragedy of just straight up death as a result of war is explored, but it's explored in the middle to where like the tragic situations you get in the end are not are like completely passed over death. There's almost nothing to do with that anymore. Like I don't think anybody dies in that final episode that's like a named character. It's all about the time situation, the time dilation situation, and how that completely fucks up everybody's lives. Um, it's all about that, and that's one of the main thing that I really like about this as a sci-fi story is that the tragedy is not death. The tragedy is a unique sci-fi, like very specific scientific concept ruining everything, and that's very interesting. That's a very good way to do it, and like I was saying before, our main characters have to essentially come to terms with that, come to terms with the fact that we'll never see like anyone we love again. We'll survive and we'll get back to Earth even, but we have to come back to an Earth where everyone they come back to an Earth. That's the kind of like bittersweet element of that final scene is that it's 12,000 years later. So they come back to an Earth where not only is everyone we ever knew, everyone who survived, long gone and dead, their graves might be gone, the graveyard might be gone, the country might be gone, and like this place might be completely unrecognizable except for the fact that like it's humans around. Like, and we have to just live with that. Like whatever changed in the time, we just gotta live with that. And that's a sacrifice that they're like especially Noriko is like in those last two episodes is like, again, she's coming to grips with having to make that sacrifice. But when we get to like episode 6, like she has her moments and like she cries over like again like what's it Kimiko. She cries over how she'll never get to meet Kimiko again. So it's like it's not that she's not feeling it; she's feeling all of the weight of what I'm talking about. But she essentially has to accept that, and that's her heroic sacrifice that she goes through. So that is like it's so crazy. To kind of extend off of that topic, the philosophical questions that this story kind of has on you are interesting, especially considering the idea of this being a Japanese story made in the 80s when anime is really starting to get in there, and this being like one of the first, like not first, but like still really are pretty early on in the lifespan of the medium, like one of the biggest to that point, like most impressive displays of like animation and like technical ability. I'll get to talking about that in a little bit. Let me talk about the themes. So yeah, in this you have okay, should I explain time dilation Well, I don't know exactly how time dilation works. I'm like my interpretation of time dilation. Should I explain that first? I think I'm gonna do that before I talk about. No, no, no. What I was no. Okay, okay. I'll get to that in a second. What I was talking about was so obviously Japan after World War II. Japan, like World War II, Japan was an imperialist, like fucking nightmare that like tortured people and murdered people in all kinds of crazy ways. And like essentially, the fallout from that was the two nukes from America and the end of the emperor as a political system, among other things, including like America's occupation of like Japan post that and all that. There's a lot of different things that come from that. But like the main thing I'm kind of like talking about here is that Japan after that they're no longer allowed to have a military. All they allowed to have as a military institution is the Japan. I was it the Special Defense Force, the Japanese Defense Force. That's all they're allowed to have. They're allowed to have limited military capacity in order to be able to defend their country from an invasion, and that's it. And that situation influenced a lot of the stories you get from like anime, manga, and artistic mediums in Japan that existed throughout the 1990s, especially going into like the 70s where you get Gundam and 80s, especially sci-fi stuff, because you get a lot of stories which are very much focused on the idea of operating from a purely defensive standpoint. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is you get this story is a situation where the entire Earth is primarily from the perspective of Japan, but the entire Earth gets put into a situation where they have an entirely morally justified like perspective in the war of defending themselves against these like alien bug monsters that want to destroy like humanity. At least as far as what we're shown. And then even with that like justified position of defense, you get into the later part of the story where they're essentially going on the attack. Where they're going on the attack is like after once they have the gunbuster that are able to fully utilize that, they it's kind of essentially implied that they've been pushing the bugs back more and more until they're finally able to just kind of take out the home base of operations, and that's what's going on in episode 6. Now to take out that home base of operations, they make a like super planet-sized nuke. Like, and it's not a nuke. It's a black hole bomb. And they made it. Let me talk about this thing real quick, cuz this is insane. This is just another one of the sci-fi concepts that's just crazy. Is they took if I'm remembering right from the dialogue, they took Jupiter, the planet, built a bomb around Jupiter, made that, and also that bomb is also a pilotable spaceship with warp capabilities, and even like built into Jupiter to kind of like hold it all together, to have that kind of core situation that we see. So they built a black hole bomb with using Jupiter as a base. If I'm remembering that dialogue correctly, which is completely insane. Like, and like by that extension, they blew up Jupiter in order to blow up the aliens. Like, am I remembering that wrong? Please correct me. Feel free to correct me on anything that I'm talking about with here. But like, this is the kind of sci-fi shit they came up with for this story. And then like to talk about the time dilation thing. Okay, let me try to wrap my head around how time dilation works because this is kind of something else. I think I'm not gonna be able to fully explain it, but I think the main two things to consider that I think I'm trying to think about are distance and what's the other thing? It's so like the concept of light years and how like the concept of light years is a measure of distance. It is not a measure of time as the year implies. So we have in this story a bunch of different ships that are capable of moving around like I think they say sublight speed for a lot of them, but we have a lot of different ships that are capable of moving incredibly fast. So I think, like, again, I'm trying to wrap my head around this as I'm saying it. So you have Earth as home base, right? You have a ship that is capable of sublight speed, like close to light speed flight, which I think would be like 700 miles per. No. That's different. That's the sound barrier. Um, I don't know the measurement for light speed. Um, so you have like these ships that are capable of traveling fast across the universe. Um, let's say you have okay, it's distance and perception. I think is what I was thinking of. Is you have the actual real way time works, and then you have your perception of time. Um, Time dilation is how time actually works. And or at least in this story, I don't know if this is like real science in real life or if this whole thing is pseudoscience. I don't know how much of this is pseudoscience in the story. A lot of it does seem like pseudoscience. But like again, anyone who knows better, please in the comments like explain the reality of how this actually works and how much of this is nonsense and how much of this is accurate. Um, I mean, like in relation to the show, obviously my attempt at explaining this is not going to be worth a damn. Um, this is a layman's like trying to rationalize how this works. Um, so I think the reality uh, of of time dilation is centered around distance, where as you move from the Earth into and you get further and further away from space and you move fast through space, the actual like physical space around you will warp as a result of how fast you are moving. And I think what it is that that space in between that is space as we know it is like where the distortion lies into where how you could have people on Earth and then you could have people in a spaceship and both of them are in reality experiencing time at the same rate, but it's that difference in between, it's that space in between that is distorted, is how I'm thinking the closest thing I could rationalize this. And then I was also thinking about time in terms of perception, how you could have someone say look at like say we're significantly far enough in the future to where you could have a camera, you could have someone in a colony or wherever on Mars with a live feed, right? You could have someone with a live like with a camera doing a live feed from Mars, and then someone on Earth is watching it, right? And then perception would be more to do with what to be how the camera is picking up that information, how that information is being sent and received to the thing, and the delay of distance between those things. And I was kind of trying to think of it as essentially like, could that also result in like the perception of of the feed also slowing down in addition to the delay that we normally experience from like in our own reality we experience like a delay of not even that far compared to what we're talking about, delays in time compared to what a camera is showing compared to what you were seeing. Like that could be like a few cities over. This, like, I'd imagine from planet to planet that would be significant. Like the delay part would be significantly worse. But there's also the idea of would um, would our perception of these events also be slower? I don't know where I'm going with this fully. I think the first thing I said was more correct. I think the first thing I said was more relevant to this, and the other part is just me trying to rationalize how time works, in general. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave that off that. So yeah, the idea of time dilation as it's explored in the story, and that kind of being this story's big like theme that it explores, and like I said, that being the main cause of the tragedy more so than the death that results in war. This case being a mostly defensive war. And I think, yeah, no, like, there's even a character in episode 6 who's just like a random unnamed soldier who asks Kumiko, essentially, do we have the right to mess up, like, celestial bodies like this? Like, with what we did with Jupiter, and then the black hole bomb is being set off in the center of the galaxy and will absolutely envelop, like, stars and planets. And it's just like, do we have the celestial right to do that? And her like kind of rebuttal to it is just like, we're acting for survival. Like, as far as we can, she essentially kind of says like, there's no proof of God. Like that's it's essentially like that's she's implying is that like, well that's kind of what she's implying is just like, well, there's nothing else around to judge us. Like, like it's more complicated than that. But she's just like, yeah, no, we're acting off of survival. So the actual like higher level morality of what exactly we're doing, like on a universal scale, it's just like God hasn't shown Himself to us yet. So like, what are we doing? What like we're gonna do what we can to survive, and then we're gonna appreciate those lives that we have from surviving. And yeah, it's like, what can you argue against that? Because again, we see the end results of their actions. That's the thing too about that ending that makes it so good, is that we see such a humanity still being around and alive on Earth, and civilization being like obviously way more advanced 12,000 years later, after they save the universe, after they save humanity from this alien threat. That is such an interesting way of how they get the payoff to see the fruits of their work one scene after they do it. Like they saved that, like they really did like save humanity doing that shit. And that's the thing, is like, because of the idea of it being defense, is like, you can be so proud of that. You can be so proud of what you accomplished there. This is not this was not a very morally ambiguous situation to where like we have another very sentient, very like people who have like innocent like kids at in the towns and cities of their own. This was not one of those stories. This was, there are bug monsters that want to kill us, and like we're gonna we will do what we can to defend ourselves from them, and that eventually means taking out the like making it so they can't come back at us. Now, Diebuster exists. So, oh man, I will talk about that shit, man. Oh man, it's so. Okay, is there anything else? Oh, yeah, okay. So I talked about all that. We talked about like most of the heavy stuff, I think, at this point. The Gunbuster is so fucking cool, man. Like, this is like one of my favorite mechas in fiction. Just off of like, and it didn't even really have that much to it, but it's just like, it's so cool, man. It's like that. It's two ships that can super quickly combine into one. The fact that it's controlled with like human body motions. Um, the interesting aspect of them being it being controlled by two people and it being controlled by like human body motions means that like they have to really communicate in order to be able to effectively control this thing. And like you could see how that's the thing that Coach wanted from them all along. Like they needed to be as a unit. It can just be one of them. We can't just have the one prodigy. And that like that's what like Kubiko and like the others didn't really understand. Is we can't just have the one prodigy. We need a 2-man team here to really make this work. Not just for piloting the thing when it's a mech, but also because it's two ships that also are capable of taking out like the lower level, the smaller of these enemies, because it has a big fuck off laser that can sweep and destroy thousands of these bug ships at once. Like, but never mind that too. That's another interesting thing is the actual space warfare. I've watched a tiny bit of Legend of the Galactic Heroes. I haven't watched very much of that. I need to get around to watching that proper. But like the ways that like certain anime stories have portrayed space warfare as essentially just being these gigantic fuck off like ships shooting like lasers at each other, like. And the idea of an interesting thing that's like funny to the series of whether they just didn't want to deal with the idea or whether they actually did think it through and tried their best to portray things like thing is that there's no friendly fire. I don't think at a single point in this. There's not a single moment of friendly fire. I think in this entire throughout Gunbuster, throughout all the like ship fights that happen or anything like space battles that happen. And you gotta think is like, did the creators actually think of that, or did they just not want to deal with that in terms of like thematically exploring, like avoiding friendly fire or anything like that? And like that's something I wondered. But oh man, that scene with the Gunbuster in episode 5, it's so good. It's so good. And also, like, in episode 6, when Noriko tears off the chest and tears out the core and puts that into the Jupiter bomb. Like, it's so fucking cool. With the black and the orange. And, like, yeah, like again, the pose with the arms crossed. Having the pose with the arms crossed and then shooting a like big purple laser out the head to blow up like 2,000 fucking bug ships. It's so fucking or like just extending the fingers to shoot out a bunch of missiles. The fucking stupid ass cape. The stupid ass cape. Why? What that was so stupid. Of like that's just a really cool moment. And like that's the thing too is a lot of stuff in here is just ultimately really cool moment. It's cool to have your giant mech do a drop kick through 1,000 ships. Who cares? Like man, oh man, I like episodes 1 through 4. Episodes 5 and 6 are what turn this into like one of my favorites. Like episodes 5 and 6 like are both individually good to watch episodes on their own, but they also like are such good as payoffs for what has been, the ideas that have been built up for the first 4 episodes. And it's just so oh man, I love it so fucking much. It's not perfect. It does have little things here and there that are kind of annoying, and like I said, I do not care for the romance plot. I love a good romance. I love a good romance thing. In fact, some of my favorite stuff is like romance-centric anime. I have like especially like with a lot of like very feminine elements. There are things that are like a little bit like a little bit like, yeah, I gotta kind of get used to like this genre or whatever, or way of things. But like, I love a good fucking romance, and this one just didn't do it for me. But the sci-fi and the action and the themes and like the main characters and like their things like are it's so fucking good. It's this is great. This is great. This is great. And I hope that if like you had just as much of a satisfying experience as I did watching this. Oh man. Okay. All right. Now I gotta go watch Gunbuster. I gotta go watch Gunbuster so I can make my review for that. Y'all have a good one.